Dr. Emily Watson brushed the dust from her knees as she stood up from the strange crystal formation. The alien sun of Kepler 442b cast long shadows across the ancient ruins that stretched beyond the horizon. Her team had been digging on this dead planet for 3 months, but today felt different. Today, something was calling to her from deep within the crystalline structures that dotted the landscape like frozen tears. "James, come look at this," she called to Professor James Mitchell, who was carefully documenting artifacts near a collapsed wall. Her voice carried a mixture of excitement and confusion that made him drop his tools and hurry over. The crystal was unlike anything they had found before. It stood nearly 2 meters tall and pulsed with a soft blue light that seemed to respond to their presence. As Emily approached, the light grew brighter, and strange symbols began appearing on its surface like words written in flowing water. "Have you ever seen anything like this?" Emily asked, running her gloved hand along the smooth surface. The moment she touched it, the symbols moved faster, swirling around the crystal in patterns that almost looked like they meant something. James shook his head slowly. "In 20 years of digging up dead civilizations, I've never seen technology that responds to touch. This isn't just old, Emily. This is ancient beyond anything we've discovered." Dr. Robert Hayes, their language expert, came running from across the dig site when he heard their excited voices. His breathing was heavy from the sprint, but his eyes went wide when he saw the moving symbols. "Those markings," he whispered, pulling out his portable scanner. "They're not random. There's a pattern here, almost like a mathematical language." He began recording the symbols as they danced across the crystal's surface. "Emily, keep your hand there. The patterns change when you touch it." For the next hour, the 3 scientists watched as the crystal revealed layer after layer of information. The symbols were complex, but Robert's training in ancient languages helped him spot the underlying structure. There were numbers, coordinates, and what looked like star charts. "I think I'm starting to understand some of this," Robert said, his voice trembling with excitement. "These aren't just decorative symbols. They're maps. Star maps showing the positions of different solar systems." Emily leaned closer to the crystal. "Can you tell which systems they're showing?" Robert worked with his scanner for several more minutes, comparing the crystal's patterns with known star charts from their database. When he finally looked up, his face had gone pale. "Emily, this is impossible. According to these coordinates, one of the systems they're showing is our solar system. Our Earth." James frowned. "That's not so unusual. Maybe this civilization knew about Earth and wanted to visit it." "You don't understand," Robert continued, his hands shaking as he double-checked his readings. "The timestamp on this data, the way they've marked when this information was recorded, it's from millions of years ago. Long before humans existed. Before any life that we know of existed on Earth." The 3 scientists stared at the crystal in silence. The implications of what Robert was saying slowly sank in. How could an ancient alien civilization have detailed information about Earth from a time when there was nothing there worth knowing about? "There has to be a mistake," Emily said, but her voice lacked conviction. The crystal continued to pulse with that strange blue light, as if it was trying to tell them something important. "Wait," James said suddenly. "Look at the other symbols around the star map. Those aren't coordinates. They look like biological data?" Robert turned his scanner toward the new symbols that James was pointing at. These were different from the star charts, more complex and layered. "You're right. These look like genetic sequences. DNA patterns, but not from any species in our database." Emily felt a chill run down her spine. An ancient alien civilization that somehow knew about Earth millions of years before humans existed, and they were interested in genetics? As if responding to her words, the crystal's light suddenly flared brighter. New symbols appeared, these ones forming clear pictorial representations. They showed a double helix structure that any scientist would recognize as DNA, but with additional components that seemed impossible. "My God," Robert breathed. "They're showing us modified DNA. Enhanced DNA. Like they were planning to change something or create something." The crystal pulsed once more, and then displayed a final set of symbols that made all 3 scientists step back in shock. The image was unmistakable, a representation of a human figure, but surrounded by the same complex DNA patterns they had just observed. "This can't be real," James whispered. "Are you saying that these ancient aliens somehow knew about humans before we existed? Or worse, that they had something to do with creating us?" Emily's mind raced as she tried to process what they were seeing. The ruins around them suddenly took on a different meaning. This wasn't just another dead civilization. This was something far older and more significant than anything humanity had ever discovered. "We need to contact the Galactic Council immediately," she said, her voice steady despite the magnitude of their discovery. "If these symbols are accurate, if this data is real, then everything we thought we knew about human evolution, about our place in the universe, is wrong." As Emily began transmitting their findings back to Earth, she couldn't shake the feeling that their discovery had awakened something. The crystal continued to glow softly, and she wondered if somewhere in the vast darkness of space, ancient eyes were now turning toward Earth, drawn by the signal their dig had just sent out. The ruins belonged to the architects, a species so old that most civilizations considered them nothing more than legends. But legends, as Emily was about to learn, had a disturbing tendency to become very real. Admiral William Carter stood on the bridge of the UES Endeavour, staring at the tactical display with growing concern. 3 weeks had passed since Dr. Watson's team made their discovery on Kepler 442b, and space itself seemed to be responding in ways that defied explanation. His communications officer had been tracking unusual energy signatures appearing at the very edge of known space, and what they were seeing made no sense according to any human understanding of physics. "Admiral, we have another contact," reported Lieutenant Lisa Taylor from her station. "Same pattern as the others. It just appeared out of nowhere, no jump signature, no energy buildup. It's like these ships are materializing from nothing." William walked over to examine her readings. The ships that had been appearing over the past week were unlike anything in the galactic database. They were massive, elegant structures that seemed to flow rather than fly through space. Their hulls appeared to be made of some kind of living metal that shifted and changed as they moved, and their energy signatures were so advanced that human sensors could barely detect them. "How many does that make now?" William asked. 17 confirmed ships, sir. All different designs but clearly from the same civilization. They're maintaining position at the galactic rim, not approaching any inhabited systems. They're just waiting." Dr. Michael Thompson, the fleet's chief scientist, looked up from his analysis console. "Admiral, I've been studying the energy patterns from these ships. The technology they're using doesn't just surpass ours by a few generations. It's operating on principles we don't even have theories for yet. These aren't ships in the way we understand them. They're more like controlled expressions of pure energy." William nodded grimly. Ever since the discovery on Kepler 442b, the Galactic Council had been preparing for this possibility. Ancient ruins pointing to Earth, genetic data that suggested human evolution wasn't as natural as they had believed, and now mysterious ships appearing from the depths of space. The pattern was too clear to ignore. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," Lisa announced suddenly, her voice tight with tension. "It's coming from the lead ship, the largest one. The signal it's unlike anything we've ever encountered." "Put it on screen," William ordered. The main view screen flickered to life, displaying a stream of symbols that seemed to move and shift like living things. The patterns were beautiful but alien, flowing across the screen in ways that made them difficult to focus on. As the crew watched, something impossible began to happen. The alien symbols started to rearrange themselves, slowly transforming into letters and words that looked almost like English. "Children of Earth. Children of distant memory. We have slept long in the spaces between stars, but your voices in the void have awakened us. The time of reunion approaches. Do not fear. We come not as strangers, but as those who have waited." The bridge fell silent. William felt his heart racing as he tried to process what he was seeing. These beings, whoever they were, knew about Earth. More than that, they seemed to know about humans specifically. Ambassador David Morgan stepped forward from where he had been observing. As Earth's chief diplomatic representative, he had been assigned to the Endeavour specifically for this possibility. His training had prepared him for first contact scenarios, but nothing could have prepared him for this. "This is Ambassador David Morgan of the United Earth Federation," he said clearly, hoping his words were being received. We're honored by your contact. May we ask who you are and what your intentions are toward our people?" The response came immediately, the alien text flowing across the screen and reforming into new words. "We know you, David Morgan. We know all our children, though you have grown beyond what we first dreamed. We are those you call the architects, though that name carries only the shadow of what we once were." Dr. Thompson gasped audibly. "The architects. But they're supposed to be mythical. The oldest species in the galaxy, vanished millions of years ago." The text on the screen shifted again. "Not vanished, Michael Thompson. Transformed. We became something greater than flesh and bone, but in doing so, we lost the ability to touch the physical universe as we once did. That is why we needed you. That is why we made you." William felt a chill run down his spine. "Made us? What do you mean, made us?" Come to the coordinates we shall provide. Come with your scientists, your leaders, your questioners. There is much to remember, much to understand. The station we will create will be neutral ground, where physical and energy beings may meet safely. Come alone, but bring those who seek truth. A new set of coordinates appeared on the screen, marking a location in empty space between Earth and the alien fleet. As they watched, long-range sensors detected something new materializing at those exact coordinates. It was a space station, but unlike any human construction. It seemed to grow rather than be built, its crystalline structures extending into complex geometric patterns that looked almost organic. We will wait, the message continued. But do not delay long. The universe stirs with ancient threats, and there are things you must know before the darkness returns. Come, and we will show you what you truly are. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. William looked around at his crew, seeing his own mixture of fear and wonder reflected in their faces. "Admiral," David said quietly, "I think we need to contact Earth immediately. This is beyond anything our first contact protocols were designed for." William nodded, but his eyes remained fixed on the alien station that continued to grow in the distance. Whatever these architects wanted, whatever they meant by calling humans their children, the answers were waiting out there in that impossible structure. The most ancient species in the universe had awakened, and they claimed to know humanity better than humans knew themselves. The space station hung in the void like a massive crystal flower, its surfaces reflecting light in ways that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Ambassador David Morgan walked slowly through corridors that appeared to shift and breathe around him, the walls pulsing with a gentle blue light that responded to his presence. Beside him, Dr. Emily Watson clutched her research pad tightly, while Dr. Michael Thompson kept checking his portable scanners with nervous energy. "The air composition is perfect for humans," Michael whispered, though he wasn't sure why he felt the need to speak quietly. "Temperature, pressure, even the gravity feels exactly like Earth normal. How could they know our biological requirements so precisely?" Emily looked around at the flowing architecture that seemed more grown than built. "Everything about this place feels familiar somehow. Like I've seen it before in dreams I can't quite remember." The corridor opened into a vast central chamber where light seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. At the center of the room, geometric forms of pure energy waited for them. The beings were beautiful and terrible to look at directly, their shapes constantly shifting between different configurations of light and force. When they spoke, their words appeared directly in the humans' minds without sound. "Welcome home, children." David stepped forward, his diplomatic training fighting against the overwhelming strangeness of the moment. "We are honored by your invitation. I am Ambassador Morgan, and these are our lead scientists, Dr. Watson and Dr. Thompson. We have many questions about your message and your claims regarding humanity." The largest of the energy beings pulsed with what might have been amusement. "Questions? Yes, you have always been questioners. That trait served our purposes well when we designed it into your base nature." Emily felt her heart racing. "Designed? What do you mean, designed?" "Dr. Thompson," the being continued, ignoring her question for the moment. "You have spent your career studying human genetics. You have mapped every chromosome, traced every evolutionary step that led from primitive life to your current form. Tell us, have you never wondered about the gaps?" Michael frowned, pulling out his scanner and connecting it to the station's systems. The alien technology interfaced with his equipment seamlessly, enhancing its capabilities beyond anything he thought possible. "What gaps?" "Human evolution follows a clear path from early primates to modern humans." "Look deeper," the architect urged. "Use our technology to see what your instruments could never detect before. Examine the very foundations of your genetic code." As Michael worked with the enhanced scanner, running analyses he had performed thousands of times before, his expression gradually changed from confidence to confusion, then to shock. The readouts showed patterns in human DNA that he had never seen before, sequences that seemed too complex and purposeful to have evolved naturally. "This is impossible," he breathed. "There are artificial markers in our genetic code. Deliberate modifications that were placed there by an outside intelligence. But the timestamps on these changes? They're millions of years old." The architect's form brightened with approval. "Now you begin to see the truth. We did not find you, David Morgan. We made you." Emily stepped forward, her scientific mind struggling to accept what she was hearing. "That's impossible. Humans evolved naturally on Earth. We have fossil records, evolutionary evidence. And all of that evidence is real," the being replied. "We did not create your bodies from nothing. We guided the natural processes that were already occurring on your world. We took the primitive life forms that existed and carefully shaped their development over millions of years. A second architect joined the conversation, its energy patterns swirling in complex spirals. Your planet was chosen because it already had the potential for intelligent life. But left alone, that life would have developed along different paths that would not have served our purpose. What purpose? David asked, though part of him dreaded the answer. The first architect's form grew more intense, and suddenly the humans found themselves surrounded by images projected directly into their minds. They saw a galaxy teeming with life, countless civilizations spreading among the stars in peaceful coexistence. But then the images changed, showing something dark and terrible moving through space, consuming entire solar systems and leaving nothing but emptiness behind. We are older than any other intelligence in this universe, the architect explained as the visions continued. For 1 billion years, we protected the galaxy from a force that exists beyond normal space and time. We called it the Void Harbinger, a manifestation of entropy itself that seeks to reduce all existence to nothingness. The images showed the architects in their original physical forms, beings of incredible beauty and power, standing against the approaching darkness. But even their advanced technology and energy manipulation abilities were not enough to stop the cosmic threat permanently. We realized that our time as physical beings was ending, the second architect continued. We could transcend our bodies and become pure energy, which would allow us to continue existing in hidden dimensions where the Void Harbinger could not reach us. But in becoming energy beings, we would lose our ability to interact with the physical universe. Emily began to understand the terrible logic of what they were saying. So you needed successors. Physical beings who could continue protecting the galaxy when you were gone. Not just any successors, the first architect replied. We needed beings who possessed our curiosity, our determination, our refusal to surrender in the face of impossible odds. We needed beings who could adapt and grow in ways we never could. We needed you. Michael stared at his scanner readouts, seeing his entire understanding of human nature being rewritten before his eyes. Our drive to explore space, our stubborn refusal to give up when faced with challenges, our ability to work together despite our differences. All traits we carefully cultivated in your species over millions of years, the architect confirmed. You are not just another evolved species. You are our legacy, our children, carrying our essence forward in forms we could never achieve ourselves. David felt the weight of cosmic responsibility settling on his shoulders. And now you want us to take your place. To become the galaxy's protectors. The choice is yours, the architect replied. But the Void Harbinger stirs again, and this time we cannot face it alone. The emergency session on Luna Station was louder than any diplomatic meeting Admiral William Carter had ever witnessed. Representatives from every human colony and Earth government filled the massive conference hall, their voices rising in heated argument as they debated the most important decision in human history. The holographic displays around the room showed data that the architects had freely shared, star charts revealing thousands of habitable worlds, technology that could solve humanity's energy problems forever, and weapons capable of fighting enemies that existed partially outside normal reality. Senator Margaret Foster stood at her podium, her face red with anger. We cannot simply accept this burden. These architects are asking us to inherit a war that has been going on for millions of years. A war against something we don't even understand. But Senator, Dr. Emily Watson replied from her position near the main display, the Void Harbingers aren't just the architect's problem anymore. Our deep space monitoring stations have already detected them. The cosmic disturbances at the galaxy's edge aren't natural phenomena. They're coming whether we accept our heritage or not. General Patricia Hayes, Earth's highest military commander, activated her own holographic display showing the enhanced readings from humanity's most advanced telescopes. The data is clear. We're looking at something that can devour entire solar systems. Stars are disappearing along a front that's moving toward inhabited space at an increasing rate. Dr. Michael Thompson stepped forward, his portable computer connected to the architect technology they had been given access to. Look at what they're offering us in return, he said, projecting three-dimensional models of impossibly advanced devices. Faster-than-light communication that works instantly across any distance. Matter conversion technology that could end scarcity forever. Energy manipulation on the scale of entire stars. We could become the guardians of the galaxy just as they once were. And what's the cost? Demanded Representative John Bradley from the Mars colonies. Our freedom? Our right to choose our own destiny? These beings admit they manipulated our evolution for their own purposes. How do we know this isn't just another form of control? The debate was interrupted by a gentle pulse of energy that filled the chamber. The architects had not physically appeared, but their presence could be felt by everyone in the room. When they spoke, their words appeared in each person's mind simultaneously. The choice must be freely made, the ancient voices said. We offer knowledge, not commands. We offer partnership, not slavery. But understand this, the threat approaching does not care about your political debates or your fears. It consumes all life indiscriminately. President Thomas Clark, representing the United Earth Federation, stood slowly. Can you show us what we would be fighting? Help us understand the true nature of this threat. The chamber around them suddenly transformed. The walls became transparent, revealing a view of deep space where reality itself seemed to be breaking down. Stars flickered and died as something that looked like living darkness moved between them. The void harbingers were not ships or creatures in any sense humans could understand. They were gaps in existence itself, places where the universe had been erased and nothing remained. They are entropy given form, the architect voices explained. They consume not just matter and energy but possibility itself. Wherever they pass, the very potential for life to exist again is destroyed forever. We held them back for 1 billion years, but our strength alone is no longer enough. Dr. Thompson studied the horrifying display with scientific fascination despite his fear. How do we fight something like that? Our weapons, even enhanced with your technology, work by manipulating matter and energy. How do we attack something that exists by destroying those very concepts? You fight them the same way we always have, came the reply. With life itself. With growth, creation, and the stubborn refusal to accept that existence must end. Your species has something we lost long ago when we became energy beings. The ability to create new possibilities through physical interaction with the universe. Senator Foster was not convinced. And if we refuse? If humanity decides this responsibility is too great? The vision around them shifted, showing the advancing wall of nothingness as it continued its march across the galaxy. Then in approximately 2,000 years, the void harbingers will reach this sector. Earth, along with every other inhabited world, will simply cease to exist. Not destroyed, not conquered, erased from reality as if it had never been. The silence that followed was deafening. Admiral Carter looked around the room at faces that reflected his own mixture of fear and determination. This was the moment that would define humanity's future, perhaps the future of all life in the universe. What exactly are you asking of us? President Clark finally said. Accept the inheritance we offer, the architects replied. Take our knowledge, our technology, our understanding of the cosmic forces that threaten all existence. But more than that, accept the responsibility to protect not just your own species, but all the younger civilizations that have not yet had time to develop their own defenses. And in return? You become what we once were, the guardians of life itself. You gain the power to shepherd the galaxy's growth, to guide younger species as they develop, to ensure that consciousness and creativity continue to flourish throughout the universe. Representative Bradley stood up again. And if we accept this inheritance but choose to use it differently than you did? If humanity decides to forge its own path as galactic guardians? For the first time, the architect's response carried what sounded like approval. That is what we hope for most of all. We failed because we became too removed from physical existence. You have the chance to succeed where we could not, precisely because you will remain connected to the material universe in ways we never could after our transformation. President Clark looked around the chamber one final time. All those in favor of accepting humanity's inheritance and the responsibility it entails? The vote would echo across the stars and determine whether consciousness itself would survive the coming darkness. Captain Sarah Miller stood on the bridge of the UES Guardian, watching the stars through the forward viewport with a mixture of pride and determination. 6 months had passed since humanity voted to accept their inheritance from the architects, and the ship around her was proof of what that decision had made possible. The Guardian was unlike any vessel humans had ever built, its hull flowing with the same living metal technology the architects used, but shaped by human engineering principles and marked with symbols that pulsed with protective energy. "Status report, Commander Phillips," Sarah ordered, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were about to face. Commander Robert Phillips checked his enhanced displays, where human technology merged seamlessly with architect systems. "All systems are running at optimal levels, Captain. The fleet is holding perfect formation. 200 ships, all equipped with the hybrid technology. Human crews, architect enhancements and something entirely new." Through the viewports, Sarah could see the rest of humanity's first Guardian fleet stretched out in a defensive formation that would have been impossible without the new faster-than-light communication systems. Each ship was different, reflecting the creativity and stubbornness that had made humans attractive to the architects in the first place. They had not simply copied architect designs, but had taken the ancient technology and adapted it to work with human instincts and tactics. "Captain," called Lieutenant Daniel Wright from the sensor station, "I'm detecting the edge phenomena. We're approaching the boundary where normal space starts to break down." Sarah nodded grimly. The Void Harbingers were close now, their presence marked by the complete absence of stars in the space ahead. Where they passed, not even light could exist, leaving gaps in the universe itself that hurt to look at directly. Admiral William Carter's voice crackled over the communication system from the Fleet Command ship. "This is Fleet Admiral Carter to all vessels. Today we face something that has threatened the galaxy for longer than our species has existed. But we don't face it alone, and we don't face it as the beings we once were. The architects had offered humanity many gifts when the vote was taken. They had offered to merge consciousness with the human race, to transform them into pure energy beings like themselves. They had offered to share their transcendent existence in dimensions beyond physical reality. But humanity had chosen differently, and that choice had surprised even the ancient guardians. We remain human," Admiral Carter continued. "We remain physical, mortal, curious, and stubborn. We remain connected to the material universe in ways our ancient allies cannot be. And that is our strength." Sarah opened a channel to the architect ships that flanked the human fleet like protective parents watching their children take their first steps. "Ancient Guardians, are you ready for this partnership?" The response came not as words, but as a warm presence in the minds of every human in the fleet. "We have waited eons for this moment. Let us, children. Show us what you have learned." Dr. Emily Watson, now serving as the fleet's chief science officer, looked up from her station on the Guardian's bridge. "Captain, I'm reading massive distortions ahead. The Void Harbingers are larger than anything in the architect records. They've grown stronger during their approach." "How much stronger?" Sarah asked. "If the architects faced them alone they would lose," Emily replied quietly. "But we're not facing them the same way the architects did a billion years ago. We have something they never tried." Sarah smiled, remembering the debates that had raged for months after humanity accepted their inheritance. The architects had always fought the Void Harbingers by trying to match their power with superior technology and energy manipulation. But humans had suggested a different approach, one that the ancient energy beings found difficult to understand but were willing to try. "All ships, prepare for close formation," Sarah ordered. "Remember, we're not trying to destroy these things. We're trying to create something they cannot consume." The human fleet began to move in patterns that looked almost like a dance. Each ship took position relative to the others in configurations that had been tested and refined over months of preparation. As they moved, their enhanced engines began to generate not weapons or shields, but something entirely different. "Initiation sequence is beginning," reported Commander Phillips. "All ships are synchronized." The space around the human fleet began to change. Instead of trying to fight entropy with force, they were creating the opposite of entropy, pure possibility. Each ship became a node in a vast network that generated new potential for existence, new chances for life and growth and consciousness to take hold. The Void Harbingers reacted immediately to this unexpected strategy. The living darkness that had consumed countless civilizations suddenly found itself facing something it had never encountered before. Areas of space where its power to erase existence was actively being countered by the creation of new possibilities. "It's working," Emily called out excitedly. "The void regions are stabilizing. Matter and energy are beginning to form in the spaces they had erased." But the battle was far from over. The Void Harbingers were ancient and cunning, and they began to adapt to this new threat. The living darkness swirled and concentrated, trying to overwhelm the human formation with pure destructive force. "Architect ships now," Sarah called. The energy beings who had waited in the shadows of space for eons finally joined the battle, not as leaders but as partners. Their transcendent power combined with human creativity and determination, creating something neither species could have achieved alone. As stars began to shine again in regions where they had been erased, Sarah realized that this was just the beginning. The galaxy was vast and there would be many more battles ahead. But for the first time in cosmic history, the forces of creation had a real chance against the forces of entropy. Humanity had become the children of the stars, inheritors of ancient responsibility but guided by their own unique vision of what it meant to protect life throughout the universe.